previous part of Mr. Richards, as you will recall, Mr. Richards had successfully rewired the control desk to the command module thanks to the help of the British Space Agency. With the spaceship back in working order, he was able to guide it down to Mars. Despite a catastrophic crash landing, Mr. Richards climbed from the wreckage and was met by an old man and his thousands of children. Mr. Richards stood in front of the old man who was examining the crashed spaceship.
Is this Mars?
What is Mars?
You know, the planet.
The old man looked puzzled.
Well, you see, space is made up of lots of planets. It's very possible that the British Department of Space may have given me the wrong directions.
Ah, you're from the British Department of Space, huh?
The old man then turned to the children surrounding him.
Take him away.
The children scuffled over to Mr. Richards.
What are you doing?
Take him to the cubicle.
Take him to the cubicle. Take him to the cubicle.
The children pushed and shoved Mr. Richards along the path towards the city. Mr. Richards saw a sign reading, "The city, 15 miles.
What's the cubicle?
Shut up.
For 15 miles, the children pushed Mr. Richards until they arrived in the city. He was taken to a small building and thrown inside a cell. The old man approached the doors to the cell and peered in.
You can't just leave me in here. I'm on a mission for the British Department of Space.
Your mission is over now.
Your voice is familiar.
Of course it is. I'm the king, King Alfonso.
The light finally flickered on in Mr. Richards' head.
Yes, I remember you.
Only now do you remember the man that you killed.
But you're not dead.
That's besides the point. I'm a different man now. So basically, you killed the old me, but not me in general. If this is making any sense to you.
That's a very philosophical point.
I had a lot of time to be or whatever it is you said, while floating in space for all that time.
Look, I'm sorry about what happened, but it was an accident.
Lies. You threw me out on purpose.
How'd you end up here?
After you fired me out the airlock, I was left floating in space for 3 years, until eventually I landed on this planet. From there I met this Chiquita in a nightclub, and we had a special night, if you know what I mean. Next thing you know, we've 100 children. I couldn't be bothered to think of 100 names, so I called them all Alfonso, after their daddy. Me.
How'd you meet someone up here?
Like most people, I go out clubbing.
How come you look so much older?
That's life, my friend. We all age. I thought you were a science teacher.
But I'm not aged as much as you.
All right, don't rub it in, buddy.
Don't rub it in, buddy. Don't rub it in, buddy. Don't rub it in, buddy. Don't rub it in, buddy. Don't rub it in, buddy. Don't rub it in, buddy. Don't rub it in, buddy.
Alfonso realised he wasn't going to have much of an adult conversation with his kids hanging around and shooed them off.
Sorry about that, but they follow me everywhere. I've been on this planet for 20 years.
You can't have been. It was only 2 weeks ago since you left the cargo hold.
That is space, my friend. The time works differently.
It works the same as it does on Earth.
Impossible. I counted it on my watch. It has been 20 years.
By any chance, did you pass through a wormhole?
That's none of your business.
It's just that time moves through a wormhole quicker, so it will have taken 20 years for you. But for me, it has only taken 2 weeks.
Oh, you're kidding me. You mean Alfonso, the best looking of my 3 siblings, has aged ahead of my time? You know you are nothing but bad news. You know that, right?
It wasn't the first time someone had said this to Mr. Richards. His wife had a similar discussion with him before she left.
I hate to ask, but is there a toilet nearby?
Ha! Oh, that delicious irony. You need a toilet. How about this for the toilet?
Alfonso whipped it out and began to urinate on Mr. Richards. Wait, hang on. Did I just read that right? He urinated on him? Oh, that is disgusting. Oh, I can't shake the image of him urinating on someone. Who writes this filth? I mean, kids listen to this podcast.
If ever I get out of here, I'll...
Aha, the delicious irony,
Clearly being stranded in deep space for so long had driven Alfonso insane. I mean, who actually does that?
You will live out the rest of your life in this cell until you die.
But I have to get back to Earth to let them know there's life in space.
Mr. Richards was initially going to say intelligent life, but then remembered that Alfonso had just urinated on him and decided to stick with just life.
Earth, the place where all those husbands chase after me just because I have sex with their wives? Forget it. I have a new life here with a wife and millions of children. All those kids,
Alfonso pointed over to where the kids were busy now playing with the wreckage of Mr. Richards' crashed spaceship.
It must be tough raising thousands of children.
I have good days and bad days. Most parents do. But overall, I'm proud of them. My babies.
I wouldn't be proud of them. I mean, look at him.
Mr. Richards pointed over to one of Alfonso's kids, who was hitting another kid with the wrench he'd found in the spaceship. Alfonso instantly went into parenting mode.
Hey, you, Alfonso!
All the kids stopped and looked back at Alfonso.
No, not you.
All of the kids turned back and continued with what they were doing.
No. You, Alfonso, stop that.
Again, all of the kids stopped what they were doing and turned back around to face their dad.
Why is it so hard to understand, you stupid kids? You, Alfonso, there. Stop what you're doing. No, not you. The other Alfonso, the one that's hitting his brother. Stop it.
Confusing the kids even further, they all stood staring back at Alfonso.
I give up, All of you go inside and think about the fool you made your daddy look in front of his prisoner.
The kids marched in single file towards a nearby house.
Sorry about that. Like I said, I have good days and bad days. The days are bad days.
You could do with a little help. You know, I have to deal with little brats like that every day back on Earth. It's part of my job. How about you let me out and I can teach you a thing or two?
I don't know. How can I trust you?
Think of it as a favour that I owe you. It's the least I can do.
Well, I suppose.
Just then, as Alfonso was opening the prison door, came the roar of a second spaceship. However, this spaceship was a fine specimen of titanium alloy craftsmanship, not the low-budget piece of shit. It landed with absolute precision on top of the wreckage that Mr. Richards had left.
Who's this? You called backup? Didn't you?
I don't know anything about this.
Quick, children! Attack the intruders!
Children charged back out of the house in single file and carried on towards the spaceship. As the doors to the spaceship opened, out walked two astronauts.
The Chinese are here, so this really is Mars.
Apparently so.
The kids closed on the astronauts, who effortlessly battered the kids away, leaving them sat. Right. One of the kids scrambled back to his feet and yet again charged towards the astronauts. The kid, in a piece of pure skill, was kicked and sent right back through the open bedroom window of the house he'd just come from. It wasn't so much to do with how hard he'd kicked the kid, but more to do with the low center of gravity on Mars. Well, I would hope so, or else the Chinese are going to be a tough opponent in the next World Cup.
What are you doing to my kiddies?
Another kid charged towards the astronaut, who was kicked and landed straight in the cell with Mr. Richards.
Don't put this little rodent in here with me.
I'll get you out of there, Alfonso.
Alfonso opened the door to the cell. The kid ran out and hung onto Alfonso's leg.
Tell you what, Mr. Richards, that favor you owe me, you can go and fight the Chinese for me.
Mr. Richards ran out towards the astronauts.
Help! Help! I'm Mr. Richards of the British Department of SPAC. I've been kidnapped by that nutcase over there.
Don't be stupid. Everyone knows Mr. Richards died 2 weeks ago.
No, I didn't die. I'm right here. I landed an hour ago.
Two astronauts conferred with each other.
How'd they know about the British Department of Space? They must have Twitter up here.
They then turned back to Mr. Richards.
Where's your spaceship?
You just landed on it.
No, that's our spaceship.
No, mine's underneath yours.
I didn't see a spaceship. Did you? No.
The Chinese astronauts had decided they didn't want to admit that the British Department of Space had actually beaten them to Mars, so began to pass him off as an alien species. Well, if you'd spent millions of dollars to get somewhere and found a low-budget joke of a space agency had beaten you there, you'd cover it up too.
Right. Let's put him and that weird-looking one over there into the cargo hold.
The astronauts grabbed Mr. Richards and Alfonso and dragged them back to the spaceship.
No, I don't want to leave. I have a wife and kids.
Mr. Richards and Alfonso were stuffed into the cargo hold, while the astronauts unloaded the Cho family that were going to be living on Mars now. Then did a little flag planting ceremony and got back into the spaceship.
Let me just take a photo for my Twitter. Okay, but be quick.
Astronaut opened the cargo hold and took a photo of Mr. Richards and Alfonso.
Smile.
Back in Bristol, Major Rogers was checking his Twitter.
Lieutenant Rogers, get in here right now.
Lieutenant Rogers stopped making his coffee and ran into the room.
Look at this. The Chinese have landed on Mars and tweeted a photo of some aliens they found on the planet. It's already trending.
Let's see this picture.
Major Rogers opened the picture to see Mr. Richards sat staring back at them.
That's no alien. It's Mr. Richards.
But I thought he died.
That means we were the first to land a man on Mars.
It would appear so, yes.
I'll go and tweet back then.
I wouldn't be so sure. Do we really want the world to know that the Chinese have captured our astronaut?
Well, what are we going to do?
We'll admit defeat and let the Chinese experiment on him. That should give us enough time then to begin preparations for mission to Mercury.
Meanwhile, back in the cargo hold of the Chinese spaceship, Mr. Richards and Alfonso were getting to know each other.
We will be famous now, huh? And everyone knows when you're famous you can get all the chiquitas you like.
I'll be the most famous science teacher. I can see the headlines now. Science teacher lands on Mars.
That's not very imaginative. It needs to be something like handsome Mexican conquers both Mars and hearts.
I could be having a brandy with the Prime Minister.
Yeah, I could be on a date with his wife while you're doing that. She's not a bad chiquita.
Do you ever go on about anything other than women?
Do you ever stop going on about brandy? If it wasn't for you having a bottle of it on the spaceship, we wouldn't be here in the first place.
It was a successful mission, though, wasn't it?
And science. You're always going on about science. Did you ever stop to consider that maybe I don't care about the fact that some stick insect species don't have a male? No, you didn't. 2 hours I had to sit listening to that. Jeez.
The engine shut off and the spaceship began to descend into Earth's atmosphere.
This is it, Alfonso. Through these doors will be thousands of people awaiting our arrival. Well, just my arrival, because they don't know who you are.
Mr. Richards brushed off his spacesuit.
My spacesuit still smells of urine, by the way.
How many times can I say I'm sorry?
Not enough, but maybe try 3 more times.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
No. Still not enough.
I'm bloody sorry, for God's sake.
The cargo hold doors opened.
Maybe you'll realise that mere words can't make up for the fact you actually urinated all over me.
They both realised that the doors to the cargo hold had opened and turned round, with their best media smiles, only to be greeted by two scientists in surgical gear.
Wait, you're not a newspaper? Where's the Chiquitas?
Thy strong use of the English language. Interesting. Smells a bit funky, though. Sedate them.
They were both injected with sedatives and placed on an operating table and led into surgery.
Whoa, what are you doing?
And the moral of this story? Well, space is no place for amateurs. Don't impregnate an alien lover on a distant planet. And don't attempt to build your own spaceship in the space of 4 weeks. And if you do, at least make sure you get insurance off the Prime Minister.